guys, Tasha and Shamar here with Creative Canvas.
Hi.
We are here painting the majestic sunset elk this evening. And hopefully you were able to pause in the intro to get the list of materials. Also, this one does require a template unless you plan on freehanding your elk, and that's totally fine if you do. But if you would like a template, you can get those off of our website, off of the Paint at Home link and the download template link. All of our templates are available now for download and printing. I suggest printing them all and just having them ready so that the next one that we do, you'll be prepared. All right, so let's just get started. All right, so we are going to get started first with kind of drawing in our mountains and our foreground with our pencil. As you can see, I already kind of got started, mainly because I didn't want to look like an idiot using my eraser on camera. Anyways, so basically the best way to kind of identify where you're going to put everything is I like to half the canvas. I don't go by specific measurements. I just kind of try and figure out about where each line is going to be. So in this instance, I'm going to find my halfway point on my canvas, which is going to be right about in here. It's about halfway. So from there, I'm going to come down about ½ an inch, and this is going to be kind of my horizon for my foreground. So I'm going to kind of just bring this along here, create this little line here. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to lay in is my first mountain to the right. So I'm going to come up all the way up. This is going to be my tallest mountain. So from here, from the very top of the canvas, I'm coming down canvas. I keep saying that. About, what is it, about an inch and a half, about an inch and a half. I'm going to start with the top of my mountain, and I'm going to bring that in. And mountains aren't, you know, straight and smooth. So you're just going to kind of bring it in, make it a little bumpy, bring it down to about this point. Now this point is, it's not halfway across the canvas, this is about halfway, so it's about another inch to the left. So I'm going to bring it in to about right here, and then from here I'm going to make a little V here, so I'm going to bring another little mountain up off to this side. Okay, so those are my two mountains that are going to be closest to me. So from there I'm going to create the back mountain, the mountain that's all the way in the distance. And so from there, it's kind of, you know, it doesn't have to be exact. You just want to make sure that you have another little V over here, because this is where we're going to put the sun here. So I'm coming down another, what, 2.5 inches or so off the top of this one. And I'm just going to create this bumpy little mountain in here. I'm going to just bring it up and end it right over there. So now we have the idea of where our mountains are going to be. That's basically all we need to start, but just for the heck of it, let's go ahead and lay in that furthest hill or that closest hill that's going to be closest to you. This is the one that the elk's going to be standing on, as well as our pine trees. So what I did for that is, if you come down here to the bottom left-hand corner of your canvas, come up about, what is it, about 1.5 inches, kind of make a mark. And I'm just guesstimating these guys. My inches could be really, really off, but just to give you an idea.
Would you like a ruler?
Yeah, that'll take too long. I'm too impatient for a ruler.
It's right there.
Oh, where? Oh, yeah, it's over there. All right, well, we don't need it. We're good. We got this. All right, so then I'm going to bring this line across here, and I'm going to just slowly make it rise up. So you create that little hill. So now I know, okay, this is basically where everything is going to be positioned. And from this point, I can get started painting. So the first colors we're going to use is we're going to start up here. We're going to lay in our sunset, or at least part of our sunset. It's tricky when you're doing sunsets and you're dealing with yellows and blues, because you have to lay in one layer and then you need it to dry, because if you try and lay in the blue over the yellow, you're going to end up with a green sunset, and that just doesn't make any sense. So we have not poured my paint yet.
So we are using.
We're going to use the yellow, the bright yellow. It's also called chrome yellow. And we're going to use a little bit of white.
Which is also cad yellow.
Which is also, yep. It's basically whatever yellow you have is going to work for this. So I'm going to start with yellow and white. Now, I forgot to grab paper towels. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my big brush to start. So I'm going to go ahead and dip it in my water. I'm going to get most of the excess water off of there. We don't need a ton. Okay, so to start, we're going to mix our yellow with a little bit of this white. We're just going to paint in first layer where that yellow is going to go. So we have this kind of bright yellow sunshiny color. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to put this right basically in this first V here. I'm going to follow along my mountain here, up here. I'm going to fill this in. I'm going to bring this straight across here. I'm not going to go all the way up to the top of the canvas. I'm just going to come to about right there. That's a good first layer. Okay, so once you've got that first little layer on, go ahead and we're gonna do a jump down now here to the foreground because we want to make sure that that dries really well, and we don't necessarily want to touch our mountains yet because we're going to be doing a little bit more work to this sunset, and it'll just mess the mountains up. We don't want to do things twice. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush real good. The next colors I'm going to put on my plate. In fact, I'm going to set this one aside because I'm going to continue using this for my sunset. I'm going to grab a new plate. This will be my foreground plate. And I'm going to use, we've got Cobalt Blue. And
that's also just a standard primary blue.
Yep, just a standard primary blue. And I'm going to need black. Sorry. I don't know what I did.
Okay.
I won't keep going since you're walking away. We're pausing for dramatic effect. Waiting for our black. I'm going to add some white to my plate. And now I'm going to add some black. Okay, so what we're going for is kind of a light gray color, and this is we're gonna fill in our entire foreground with this. This will be our first layer. So I'm gonna stick with the big brush because we kind of have a large spot. Just make sure that you really rinse that brush out. We don't really want any of that yellow into our mix. So just rinse it real good. Real good. Why do I say stuff like that? I don't know. Anyways, hopefully you can see my plate, because that's what we did wrong in the first video. So we're trying to do everything right this time. And we have the microphone plugged in, so that's going to help. So the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and make a light gray. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this black. And I'm just grabbing a little bit to start, because I want to see what it takes to get to that color. And then what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll mix more. It's going to be pretty light. Good. Now I'm going to take a touch of this blue and mix that in there. Yeah, that's a good color right there. Let's put it on the canvas and see what it looks like. It's pretty close, but I'm actually going to go a touch lighter. Add a little bit more white to that. Yeah, I think that's a good color. So now I'm just going to basically, I'm just going to fill in this whole foreground area here. Now, I know what it takes to get that color. I'm going to some more. And you know what, if you mix it a second time and it's not exact but it's close, that's okay. I think when I originally did this painting, the plan was for it to look like obviously a sunset sky, but this was meant to be more of a snowy foreground, obviously without the bright sunshine. Just make sure it's nice and filled. Most of your canvas is covered. These edges. Okay. And another thing we can do, since we're still kind of waiting for that yellow to dry, is let's go ahead and rinse your brush off a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and paint in the black. This is just going to be straight black in here. So might as well go ahead and put that first layer of black there. So follow your line. If it mixes a little bit, that's okay. At this point, you're probably going to want to actually flip your canvas so you can get, unless you're not using an easel. If you're not using an easel, then this is a non-issue for you. Can you see that all right?
Thank you.
Again, I'm just using straight black through here. Get that first layer on there. Anytime I start on a new painting, a lot of times I'm real anxious until I get that first full layer of paint on the canvas, just to cover up all that white. Feels good. Okay, so I'm going to flip it back over. Let's see, our sunshine is feeling pretty good. I think we can move on to the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush real thorough. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to switch to my medium flat brush. So this is the one I'm going to use. Just because I don't want to get too crazy. I'm going to try and contain myself. So for this part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the very light blue that's going to go across the top. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with this plate. I'm going to grab white first. Don't grab blue first, otherwise you'll end up with it way too dark. So grab your white first, and then come grab just a smidge of that blue and mix it in. A little bit at a time.
What do you mean by a smidge?
A smidge would be just the corner. Just take in just a corner and mix it in. Just a corner at a time. Because if you go too far blue, you can't go back. Grab another smidge. I'm going to test that up here. Try not to mix it in my gray there. It's close. And I'm going to go a little bit blue. A little bit more blue. A lot of times I'll mix a color and I just don't know if it's going to work until I get it on the canvas. Okay, yeah. That's a good color. So let's first just cover the entire space that is above the yellow. get to the yellow part, just very gently pull it in. I'm not going to go a bunch over it at this point. We're just doing our see how I'm just kind of feathering that along this yellow here. Okay. I'm going to add I'm going to grab just straight white right on my brush. Not a ton, but just a little bit right on there. I'm just going to add, because I want to lighten this up just a little bit. So I'm just going to add that right in there, right along the edge where that yellow is. Just grabbing a little bit of white, sticking it straight on my brush, and just kind of lightening that up just a bit. Do just a little bit more. Bring that down. As you do, just kind of bring that.
It's glaring.
Oh, is it
exactly
really?
right where you're at. So this helps.
Okay.
We're good.
I'm like, what happened?
That's the only spot that it's glaring. So.
Okay. A little bit more white. Bring that right back in there. Okay. At this point, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. So now, let's go ahead and you can rinse your brush. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back in with some pink. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some of this red to my plate.
Which could either be cad red or just a regular primary red.
Primary red, yep. Rinse this a little bit. Now what I'm going for is a pinkish color with a touch of blue to it, so it's more of a pink purple. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my white first, because I don't want to get out of control. And I'm going to add a touch of this pink, or red, sorry. Now it's pink. It was red before, in case you were wondering. So we got this real light pink going on there. Now I'm going to grab from my other plate a tiny little touch of that blue, and I mean tiny. I'm going to add that in and see what we get. It's real close. Let me test it. Bring that along the bottom part of my blue. Oh, sorry.
It's so fast.
Sorry. I'm going to test that here. Right along the bottom of that blue, and I like that. I'm going to bring it up, because your blue should still be a little bit wet. So we're just kind of laying on a little bit of different hue here. And as I go up into the blue, I'm just kind of bringing that into there, and it just sort of blends by itself because it's still a little bit wet. So then I grab more of that white and add just a touch more red to it. I'm going to make it a little bit more pink here.
Can you hold the plate up too?
Yep.
A little bit higher.
Sorry, gotta come all the way up here. So I got a little bit more of that pink, and I'm just going to gently just kind of bring that along here. Bottom of that blue. Real gentle. I am not pushing hard, guys. It's a very light touch. Just kind of bringing that down in. Okay. so now I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush real good again. There's a lot of rinsing real good going on in here, but there's a reason for that. We don't want to end up with brown or green. So I'm going to rinse my brush real good, and I think the next color I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pink again, only I'm going to add a touch of yellow to it. So I'm trying to transition between this yellow sunset color and then my purple without mixing yellow straight into a purple, because then it just turns into a brown. So I'm going to go ahead and mix my pink again in a different spot. So I got my white, mix that with my, oops, got a little carried away there, a little bit more white. Okay, so now instead of the blue, I'm going to grab, touch that yellow. It turns into just a different pink altogether. I'm going to test that out here at the bottom. Just real gentle. I'm not, again, not much pressure. I'm just lightly bringing that down into my yellow. Just almost a dry brush scrub effect here. And I'm not doing it in a straight line, kind of all over the place here with it. I like that color a lot. Bring a little bit of that out. It's still real wet up here, so you don't want to do a bunch of brush strokes over the top of it, otherwise your paint is going to lift. So I'm real gentle, just adding a little bit here and there. I'm liking how that's looking. Okay, so I'm going to add just a touch more yellow to that again. A little bit more white. So just a touch more yellow. It's more orangey. Come in again at the bottom of that. Just kind of add that color in there. Down in. And maybe do like a little hint of this here. A little hint of that there. I'm going to come back in with yellow. But for now, I just want to make sure that I got these colors good in there. If you come back over your mountains here, that's okay. Because we have yet to paint those in. I like that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush real thorough here. More thoroughly rinsing going on. And I'm going to come back and do my bright or my yellow. So I'm going to start with my white again. This time I'm going to go straight. In fact, I still have a little bit of this yellow on here, so I'm just going to grab that. It's going to be a real light. So we're going to mix that right in. Light color there. Can we see it all right?
There's just a glare on the
Is it
plate,
really?
too.
Oh,
I
it
think
is.
that maybe these lights need some diffusers.
What if I come up? Hang on a sec, guys. We're still learning the best. Is that any better?
The painting's not too bad. I can almost cover it with my hand up here.
So what if
It's
I
your
turn it
plate
like
on
this?
the other light.
Okay, what if I
Okay.
turn it like this?
Yeah.
You see that better, guys? So we've got this yellow here. So just
Yeah.
holler at me and say, flip the plate. So I'm going to come back in with this yellow real gentle. I'm just going to kind of put it in here real gentle into. Now this stuff's still real wet, so I don't want to go over it a bunch or that paint's going to lift. So now as I come back in, I'm just kind of using my brush sideways, adding it in there.
Zoom in here.
You guys, I have to tell you something. So, Luke is currently in charge of all 4 of the children. And we can hear them upstairs. It sounds like a herd of elephants. I am not going to lie. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm sure it'll be interesting once we finish up here. So I'm just bringing a little bit more of that yellow in. Just trying to gently soften those lines in there. I'm liking that. It's a real soft So now, like I said, you don't want to go too much because then you're going to end up picking up your paint. Okay, so that, I'm really happy with that. So then what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to grab I would like some more bright yellow, and since this is still wet, I'm not going to rinse my brush. I'm just going to grab some of that bright yellow. Just a little tiny bit on my brush here. Whoops. About like that. I'm just going to come back in and just kind of work some of that brighter yellow into that. Real gentle. Kind of get it to where you're pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to rinse off my brush. The only thing I'm going to do differently here is I'm going to grab some of this white. Straight white. I don't want a ton on there. So I'm going to wipe it off and just have just this tiny little bit of white on here. And I'm going to create like this kind of round sun look here. Grab a little bit more white, about like that, and just very gentle. It's wet still, so I'm just gonna lightly dab it in there. Yep, just dabbing it in there. I'm not real brushing it hard. Just want the idea of the sun coming up through there. I'm pretty happy with that. Now what you can do after this dries a little bit is we can come back in and add some darker clouds up here. But for the most part, I mean, that's a pretty good sunset. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the most distant mountain, which is going to be this one. So we're going to move back to our black and blue and white plate, and we're going to mix. It's going to be similar to this, only lighter with a touch more blue. So this spot's dry. I'm going to go ahead and mix it here. So I'm going to grab my white first so I don't get carried away. I got a little blue in there, and just a touch of gray, or sorry, that color is black. Blue to that. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to stick it on there and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's good color. Okay, so now I'm still using my medium flat. I'm going to try and find my pencil lines here and just paint that mountain in. Just try and get it in there as even as possible. Now that we've got that one in there, that's going to need to dry before we can add any of our highlights to it. So what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and mix up our darker color for these closer mountains. basically how it works is anything that's further off in the distance is going to be lighter in color. It's going to be a lot lighter, and anything as it comes closer to you is going to be a lot darker. So these mountains are going to be darker. So let's go ahead and mix some black into that. Another touch more blue.
Tip the plate just a little bit.
How do I do that maybe? Let's put it on there and see. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. So I'm just gonna first I'm using my brush sideways so I have that nice little line. And I'm gonna follow that down. Make sure to cover up those pencil marks from before.
And by sideways, what do you mean?
Sideways, instead of like this, I use the edge of my brush.
Right, you get that nice crisp line.
To get that nice line there. I'll bring that all the way down. Probably could have made this part a little faster by switching brushes, but that's okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get some more white here. Mix that color again. Awful quiet over there, Shamar.
Sorry, I am concentrating.
Are you napping?
No, it's hard to pay attention and not like just watch you. And
Yeah.
like watch the screen and then like I'm like, wait a minute. Yep, we're still in focus.
We're still there. Yeah, we learned a lot from our first video, you guys. And it was
And the beginning of this video.
well, and I should say
We're still learning.
we're still learning. We learned a lot from our first 3 takes. I'm adding more white to my plate because I ran out. Our first 3 takes of the first video.
That's 3 different paintings, guys.
Yeah, it was rough. We didn't finish that first tutorial until about 2 o'clock in the morning. It may have even been closer to 3, to be honest with you. I don't remember. I was in such a daze. And every time I mix this color, sometimes it turns out exact, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not entirely too worried about it. I'm just going to bring that all the way in to that line. Come over here and get that. Find my line here. Almost got it on there. One more time. That's a little bit darker. Hopefully you guys can hear me better than our last one. We've never actually done this painting for our parties. Like, it was pretty popular, and we always do the vote for which one is your favorite. This one always got real close, but it just never quite won. So we knew that there was a lot of people that wanted to do it. So I'm just going to mix this a little bit more on here. Just want to make sure that all my canvas is covered. I'm going to blend these mountains into my foreground a little bit here. So we have this darker color, and we know that this foreground area, are we still good on the camera?
Mhm.
This foreground area is going to be a little bit lighter, so we're going to add just a little bit of white to that color to get kind of that lighter color, and this should still be wet, so I'm just going to real gentle, I'm going to go over that line, because I don't want necessarily there to be an obvious line showing where that foreground is. So if I just gently kind of blend that out, you don't really know in the distance where it's coming from. Add a little bit more white to it. It's a bit darker here. Kind of come in. See how that gives that nice blended look? Touch up any spots you see on here. I think I missed a few here. A little bit more white to that. Touch those up. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to lay in a lazy river. Sorry, my phone turned off. Give me a second here. Okay. We're going to lay in a lazy river that kind of comes behind here. So to do that, we're going to move back over. No, we're going to stick with the same plate. Sorry, ignore me. I'm going to rinse my brush real good here. I'm going to stick with the same brush. Excuse me, guys. I promise I don't have any virus. It's just allergies, I swear. Okay, so I'm going to create kind of a light reflecting water color. So I'm going to start with my white. I'm going to add a touch of that blue to it. And then just a tiny touch of that black. And a little bit more white, I think. And a tiny touch of that black. It's almost a silvery blue color. It's very similar to this color, but a touch lighter. So hopefully you guys can see that okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So now my river, for everybody it can be a little bit different, but my river is going to come in at the bottom of these mountains. And it's going to slowly, and if you feel more comfortable chalking it on first before painting it on, in fact I'll do it. Although my paint's still a little bit damp, but I'll very lightly kind of show you what I'm going to do with my river. I'm going to bring it in so that it's coming off the side here. And so I'm going to lightly get this idea. And our rivers are not straight, so they can kind of move around a little bit. And then I'm going to come down here and kind of create this. Okay, it's coming down here. It snakes back and forth. Bring it in here. So what we know about this, since I got basically where my line's going to go. So what we know about this is that in the distance the river's going to be skinnier, and as it comes towards you, sideways here, but as it starts to come towards you here, it's going to get a little bit thicker. So then by the time you end it and you bring it off the page here, it's going to be a thicker river. You can even make it a little bit thicker if you want up here. So you have this nice like thick river coming off the bottom here. And as you go back, it's going to be thinner. I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take my blue, and I'm going to use my brush sideways. So I want that nice flat edge to it as I kind of follow that river along in here. So follow this along here, kind of move it back back, I'm just going back over it again, just to make sure it's all there. As you notice, I kind of squiggle it back and forth because we know our river lines aren't going to be straight. Got a bend there, comes this way here. Basic little river going in through there. I like it. Okay, now I think I'm going to add just a touch of white to that silver again. So I got a little bit more white in there. Test it out right in here. Kind of sideways again, I'm using just that edge of my brush just to kind of add a little bit more depth to that. Just kind of coming along, adding a little bit more to it. Lighten it up just a little bit. And if some of the darkness is kind of coming through in the bottom, that's good. It makes it look a little bit more realistic. Just want to make sure that you can tell what's going on in the background there. Bring it off the page. Okay, that's a good start with our river, so I'm going to let that dry. Now what we can do with this color is we can come up here and we can add some highlights to our distant mountain. So let's see here, there's a few spots on here where you can still see some of the canvas through it. I think that's actually going to add to it more than anything. But let me try this first. This is the same color that I just mixed for the river. I'm testing it out. Oh yeah, that looks good. So I'm going to use my brush sideways along these edges to create some highlights. Now, your light is coming from this edge, so as the light comes in, your highlights are all going to be on this side of the mountain. So I'm going to add a little bit highlight to that first edge there, and maybe come down a little bit. And as I do this, I'm just like the river, I'm scrubbing my brush back and forth. Come up here, kind of follow this edge, and I'm going to scrub that back and forth a little bit here. Could be a big mountain for all I know. Some nice little ski runs in there. See, I added the highlights here, and then I came in and I added another little peak here, because it can be whatever you want. So I'm going to come up here, add this in here, add some more highlights. Maybe this one coming down into that one. And then come down here. At this point, I'm even kind of flattening my brush out a little bit. Bring it in some more of them highlights. As you get closer down, I'm kind of adding quite a bit more of this lighter color down to the bottom of that mountain area. That's a good first layer there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and add a touch of white to that color that we just did. And I want one step lighter. I'm going to come right back in. I'm not going to cover the entire highlight that I just did, but I'm just going to add some of this brighter. I think it needs to be a little bit whiter. Almost. It's really white. So come back in just to the edge of that. like it. Yep, I like that. Okay, so that distant mountain is complete. So now, what we get to do, I think we're going to come in and add some lighter colors to this foreground to kind of make it look like you have some highlighted snow versus shadowed snow. So, okay. So I am actually going to stick with this medium flat for now. We'll switch to the smaller flat when we lay in our trees. But for now, we're just going to add in some highlights in our snow. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix this color, but we're going to go a touch lighter to kind of make it look like we've got some snowy ground. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some white so I don't get carried away. I always find if I start with the lighter color first, then I don't end up with a giant amount of paint on my plate that I'm not actually going to use because I had to keep adding to it to get the right color. I'm going to add a touch of black to that, and a touch of blue. See where we end up. It's pretty close. Let me see. Yeah, that's pretty close to what we got on there. So I'm going to go just a little bit lighter. Okay, so now I'm going to use my brush sideways, and as I do this, I'm going to kind of just scrub in where I want my snow highlights to be. I'm going to start here first. So I'm not going to put it everywhere. It might even be a touch too bright, actually. I might tone that down just a bit with some black and a touch of blue. Okay, come in here. I'm just going to kind of go sideways here, scrub it around, kind of like what we did with the highlights on the mountain. And see, we got some different colors going on here, so we'll have to go a touch lighter but in there. But in this darker region here, I'm going to use this color. I'm not putting it everywhere, just think about it, your highlights are going to be mainly where the snow has little hills, or the ground has little hills. Okay, so I'm going to come over here because I'm going to have to go a touch lighter for this area, which is just fine. I'm going to come over here and again add some of these highlights. Shh. Should have silenced my phone. I'm kind of trying to keep it all kind of going one direction, not too crazy. Maybe add in a hill over here. One here. Chalk's bugging me, so I'm going to get rid of that chalk. Chalk too. Maybe add a little bit of snow in the background here too. Come in here and get rid of that chalk too while I'm at it. That look better. Bring in some more of that highlight here. And come in with a little bit of a lighter color if we need to here. And I'm holding I'm not right up in here. Because when you're right up in here, you're going to have all these little short, if you're back here, you're a little less detailed about it. You're more sporadic. So just holding your paintbrush further back is going to give you a little bit more freedom. Okay, so now I'm going to add just a touch more white to that. Just a touch.
You have the white up.
Oh, sorry. No, it is right. Touch more white to that. I'm going to come in and add a little bit more. It's going to be different for everybody. You want to be able to see it, but you don't want it so bright that it takes away your focus. Again, make sure you're holding your brush back here. I don't know why it's so important, but it is. Okay, I'm going to stick with that for now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my smaller flat. This would be a 1/4 inch flat. Go ahead and get it wet. Dab, dab on your paper towel. And what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a darker color, much like this color that we have here in the mountains, and we're going to add in some trees down here. These trees do not have to be perfect. Trust me, I'll show you a special little easy way to do it. So I'm going to mix a little bit of black into my snow color. The nice thing is we're using basically these 3 main colors. So, you know, you can use almost the same spot every time there. Add a little bit of blue. So add a little blue to that so we have this darker color here. Okay, so I'm going to kind of wipe my brush off so I have this nice clean edge. And the trick to this is, I'm going to start back here first. You're going to hold your brush sideways like this. Lay it on there, and then you're going to kind of, it's hard to explain. In fact, it might even be easier. I'm going to flip the canvas. It's going to mess you up, Shamar.
Just let me catch up here.
Okay. So I'm going to flip the canvas. That way it's easier for me to do this. So I'm putting this on here, and I'm just going to, kind of like, what are those things? You know, the heart rate monitors.
EKG or sound
Yeah.
waves.
How when they move, they kind of move crazy like that. You're going to be doing the same thing with this. Kind of create some idea of trees. You're not going to follow the whole length. They're just going to be sporadic. Don't worry about the bottom. We'll come back and fix that with some snow. Just going to add in some trees. Just make sure that your top is real jagged. Maybe a little bundle of trees here. And in the distance, they're going to be smaller. So it's another important thing. In the distance, they're going to be smaller. I got a little bit more paint. Maybe follow that edge all the way off there. We'll do all these smaller distance trees first.
So that's about a 1/4. Is it a 1/4 or an inch, 1/2 inch?
The brush?
No, the trees.
The trees, yeah, about a 1/4 inch. You know, I'm not really. I'm just kind of.
It's
Some
about
of them
the
are.
length that the paintbrush is.
Yeah, some of them are a bit. Yeah, as far as that goes, I see what you're saying. And I know it looks a little weird right now, but once we add in kind of our other little bits, then it'll be easier to see it. Okay, add some more back here. Maybe a long line of them back here. Even it overlaps a little bit here. Come over here and add some. Oops, sorry.
Way far away, okay.
Moved you. I'm coming up here. And we'll as you get closer, you're going to get bigger. So we'll come in here. So when we come in here, let's see, add some more here. So now we're getting in a little bit closer, so I'm getting a little bit bigger. Just getting a little bit taller. So it's important to note that this side of my trees is real jagged, whereas this side I kind of want to be somewhat, because what we're going to do is we're going to come in with snow and kind of cover up some of those lines, but we don't want to have too much to have to cover up.
So the tops of the trees are more jagged. And
The
bottom
tops,
is
yeah,
kind
is more straight. So anyway, it's just easier when we come in with the snow. Oh, sorry, I moved again.
I'm zoomed in here getting these.
All right, are we okay to be over
Yeah.
here?
Yep.
In this? How about over here? Sorry, I'm kidding. So I'm going to add just a few more trees over here just to have some taller ones on this side too. I'm going to move back up here, and we'll go from here, add a little bit of it there, and then I don't know what we'll do. Let's see, maybe we'll, so I don't want it to look too. Too carried away here. I think that's probably pretty good. Maybe we'll add a bunch right up here. That's a lot taller. Okay. So I'm going to flip my canvas back over. Looks a little crazy right now. Now I'm going to mix kind of a brighter snow color here. And we're going to use that to purdy it up a bit. Check this out and see if it works here. Yep. So I'm going to just come in right at the base of where those trees are. And add in some snow here. And then, like this one, I can have some trees closer up, and then I can come back here and add some of that. See how I kind of curved that, so it makes it look like these trees are closer and those ones are further. Here, we're gonna add some snow there. Come in there. And then come in here at the bottom of this. Add some of that. Add some little bit here and there in between as well. Starting to come together. Gosh, why is it that all these songs come into my head? Sorry, guys.
Because we don't have music on.
That's true. There's no music. But we have to be really careful with our music because I don't want to end up getting in trouble for whatever's playing in the background. There's a lot of rules to this stuff. See how that makes it look good? Makes it look sort of legit. Come back here, and it's going to be a touch darker back here. I'm going to add just a little bit more black, a little bit more blue. So I'm coming back here. Are we good? Okay, I'm going to come back here. The same thing. Cover that bottom part. Got a little crazy there. The reason I didn't add a bunch of trees over here is because we're going to have some really tall pine trees in through there, so I didn't want to waste a bunch of time. Add a little bit more white. Just all kind of blending together too much. You can add a little bit more white, give you a little bit more highlight. Here again. This one. Pretty close, guys. Add just a touch more white to that. Just break it up a little bit more. Add a little bit more highlight in there. Layers. Lots and lots of layers. Yeah. I think that's good. I think I'm happy with that. Okay. We're almost getting close to template time. But first, we're going to add in some sunlight to our river. So we're going to stick with that. Actually, I think I might. No, I'm going to stick with that small flat. That small flat. Now I'm going to move back to my sunset plate. So I'm going to move back to this plate because I still got all my colors on there. And what I'm going to try and do is mix some of the same colors that I mixed up in the sky. The pinks. Specifically, I really like the pinks. So I'm going to go ahead and mix a pink. I'm going to start with my white. Add a touch of red to it. A little bit more white to that. Okay, and I'm just going to test this. I'm not putting it everywhere. What I'm basically going to do is I want it to look like I got some light from the sunset bouncing off my river. So just little bits here and there. Down the center mainly. And kind of again doing that whole back and forth scrubby thing. Coming through there. And just a touch. Back there. Now I'm going to I'm using when I say dash, guys, I'm barely grabbing the paint here. Let's take a look at that. I'm gonna come back, same thing. Not everywhere. Just some areas here to kind of give it that brighter look. I really want that river to kind of look like it's glowing. There we go. Very gentle, guys. Doesn't take much. I think I like that. Yep, I'm happy with that. And that's our river. So the next step is template. So I'm going to cut for a second so I can get that ready. Okay, I'm back. So I got my template. It's going to look like that. I'm going to put them right about in there because I kind of want his antlers touching the sun there. That'll look cool. Alright, so as far as chalk goes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chalk the back of this. So what we found is that if you happen to have any kids' chalk lying around, this works the best. You want something, obviously if you have a darker background, you want something that's light in color, but sometimes the white, when you chalk it onto your paper, you can't see where you've been. So using the light colored green or blue or pink or any of those options is a good option. Even the yellow would be a good option. If you don't have the colored chalk, you can use white chalk as well. Just make sure you get it on there really, really thick. And test it with your pencil before you draw the entire thing and then take the paper off and realize that it did not work. So, I'm going to go ahead and chalk this. Let's see if I'm going to have to do it this way. I'm going to have to go this way. I can kind of see where my guy is, so I'm just trying to get everywhere where he's at. Doesn't necessarily mean the whole page has to be colored, just wherever your drawing is. You're gonna make a mess, just FYI. Make sure it's really on there thick so that you don't end up going through the whole bit, because it happens.
And if you guys want to cheat or make it a little bit easier, you guys can always pick up some graphite paper, which they have at Michael's, or Ceril paper, which we found off Amazon.
You can also get it at Jerry's. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab some tape because I don't have any. So hang on a second, guys. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to position this guy. You want it so that his feet are disappearing into the black. It's up to you where you want him. If you want him higher up, just remember we're going to be adding in some pine trees. So I would like to keep him kind of a little bit lower. Right around in there, maybe? Let's see. Now I'm being indecisive. It's also important to note, make sure your paint is dry before you do this, otherwise you're going to have a ginormous mess. I didn't put much paint on that river, so it didn't take long for it to dry.
And painter's blue tape or the
Yes.
green frog tape.
Yes.
Green frog tape is actually better.
I'm going to have to hold this to do this or lay it on the table, because otherwise it's not going to look pretty. So I'm going to move down here.
Okay, give me a second to catch up.
Okay. Oh, that shouldn't be there. We'll hide that. You saw nothing. Okay. Here we go. Let's see. Wait a minute. I think I have too much of his feet hidden, guys. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. See, double check, triple check yourself. Because you can always bring the black up. Remember, you can always bring the black up to meet the feet, but you can't if you, yeah, it could be bad the other direction. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit, and even if I have to bring my grass up to meet him, that's okay. I just don't want his feet completely covered. Okay, put that back on. Now I'm just going to test it first, make sure chalk is good. Let's see. It's going to be faint, but it'll work. We normally use that cerl paper for our parties, but it's harder to get unless you're ordering it. So we thought we'd try and do the chalk method and see if that works for everybody.
Cerl paper is also reusable multiple times, so even though it seems kind of expensive at first, you get a lot of bang for your buck.
You do. Same with the charcoal paper. You can reuse that as well. And that's a little bit cheaper. You can buy it in rolls. I just have to check, make sure it's working properly. Ooh, it's going to be hard to see.
Did you want to try the blue instead?
Yeah. Some areas are okay. Let's see here. I'm just going to add a little bit more chalk, guys. Oh, I'm a mess. I'm a mess. I confess. Okay, let's try this.
Another thing that works great too is those chalky pastels.
Yes. Come back over this. Make sure I got that good. Whoops, sorry. My bad. Yeah, I can see it. As long as I can see it, I should be able to. Sorry, I'm really quiet because I'm concentrating so hard. It's always funny when we get to this point at the parties. Everybody's so talkative, and then all of a sudden everybody just goes completely quiet. And then you get people like me who get uncomfortable with silence, who feel this need to fill it.
I don't.
Yeah, she doesn't. Frankly, she's probably a bit annoyed with me when I do. Okay, that's gonna work. You guys are not gonna be able to see this, but it's there. You're just gonna have to trust me. So, before my chalk disappears, I am going to go ahead and move that.
No.
Please. I'm gonna come back in, and I'm gonna lay in my outline using my detail brush and straight black. So, I don't think I've gotten here's the detail brush. Okay, I'm going to wet that down. You don't want a ton of water on there, but you want that nice fine tip. So when I I'm going to use these. When I use a detail brush, I like these long ones. A lot of people don't, but I do, because you can really load the brush, which I do. I grab a glob of it, and then what I do is I find a clean spot and I roll it around until I get that nice fine tip. I'm going to start up here with the, almost can't see them, antlers. I'm going to have to look at this so that I've got this right. Okay, so this one comes up.
Yeah, pro tip, it's better to start at the top and work your way down. That way your hand is not in your paint.
Yeah, if you start at the bottom, you're going to end up rubbing it all. Oh yeah, crazy like. Alright, so I'm going to guess that I have something going on there. Mine's not going to look exactly like yours, guys. I'm doing some guessing here. And I'm trying not to wipe my chalk up as I go. And I'm going to wet my brush occasionally to get good flow. It's awkward. I'm going to come up from here because I know it's about right there. And here. And again, I'm really, really quiet. I'd talk about current events, but I don't want to. I'm tired of the current events. This is where it's going to get hairy. I really can't see what's going on up there. I see you just messaged me, Debbie. I have a feeling you're going to be watching this video. We miss painting with our peeps
Yes, we do.
desperately. And this is not exactly the same, but you know what? We'll take whatever we can get at this point. I'm going to have to go free for all, freehand up here, guys. This is going to be interesting. So I'm pretty sure this comes in here. Something like that. And this is going to come. We're going to stay right up there. Oops. Something like that. Okay, so that part's in. I'm going to come down here. Before I get crazy with filling everything in, I just want to make sure I got my outline. And this is, again, straight black, guys. we are using Mars Black, which I believe we put on your list. My legs end right about there, which is fine. This one's a little bit thicker. I did not pound an energy drink tonight, you can tell that. I thought about it. Okay, here's my outline. It looks pretty good. So I think I'm going to stick to the detail brush up here on this part. And then I'll probably move to a bigger brush when I get down closer to the bottom. But the main thing is filling your dude in. It's going to be interesting to see if this new microphone picks up on all the little voices upstairs. Just adding more water to it as I go, in case it's not moving seamlessly. You don't want too much. Oops, look what I just did. Okay, well, if you do that, we'll fix it later. Another reason why I don't generally use an easel when I paint. So if you need to, literally hold it in your lap to get all the right angles. There's nothing wrong with that. These tips real good, and then I'm going to come in with my bigger brush because I'm going to get impatient real quick. Ow. Okay, I'm going to switch brushes, guys. I'm going to actually do my medium flat. I'm probably going to need a lot more black here. Okay. I pull it out the bottom here, I'm just pulling it straight down. Because what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to get rid of some of this chalk on here. Because I think that's what's causing my black to not go on as nice. Don't touch your elk. I'm just going to get rid of it down here for now. Okay. And up here. Careful not to touch your elk. Just wet it down just a little. You can also use a wet paintbrush, but I really don't want much water on the canvas. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in this black that's down here. Only this time I'm going to create kind of like a grassy effect. So as I'm painting this in, I'm using this brush and I'm going to come up sideways to create like grass. I'm just real gentle on the edge of this. Now what I meant was come up to meet my elk here. He can be on a grassy knoll. I'm just going to bring that up to meet his legs. I'm just feathering this out. If you want to turn your brush sideways, just feathering it out to kind of give the idea of grass. Using my brush sideways when I do this, guys. I'm just real lightly bringing it up. Fill this in. Same thing down here. If you need to flip your canvas, you can. Squeeze in there. Okay, so while we're waiting for our elk to dry, let's go in and add in some trees. So to get an idea where I'm going to put my trees, I'm going to make sure I have a nice clean edge to my paintbrush.
Can you hold that up again? Because
Yep.
you kind of held it up in front of the black elk.
Oh, sorry.
So they're perfect.
So I got this nice kind of clean edge to my paintbrush, and I'm just going to get an idea of where I want my trees. Now remember, he's up on a hill, so the trees can be going down the back side of the hill, so you might be just seeing the tops of some trees. So for instance, I'm going to put a tree right here. It's just going to be the top of a tree. And then I'm going to put another one. Let's see. Let's do one pretty decent sized tree right here. We're just going to bring a line in. And then maybe we'll do another one right here. And a little bit taller one. And I don't know that I'm going to put any trees on this side. I'm just going to put them on this side. So I'm going to practice first on this little tree. And actually, I'm going to switch brushes because it's easier with the smaller flat. I should have done that first. Okay, so let's move to the 1/4 inch flat. same thing. Make sure you get a nice clean edge. I grab my paint, close my brush. I don't want it globbed. Just want a nice clean edge. I'm going to start at the bottom here. I'm just using the corner of my brush. See how I come in at corner? I'm going to leave that tip there, and I'm just going to kind of dab on and go back and forth this tree. I'm just using the corner of my brush here. And your trees are going to be smaller at the top, and then as you come down you can kind of flatten your brush out. Hang on, sweetheart. I'm kind of surprised that hasn't happened yet. So as I come down, I'm just kind of going to dab and get a little bit wider as I go. So now it looks like we got the back of a tree coming up there. Just kind of fill that in good. Okay, we're going to use the same process on this bigger one. Again, at the top. You see all right here, sis?
I'm zoomed out for.
I'm just going to come in and dab in using I'm just using the corner of my brush right now. Okay.
I need to figure out how to turn the camera sideways without skid marking across the floor.
So I'm coming in just using the corner here. As I come down, it's going to get wider. Since I'm up here, I'm going to do this one too. Just using the corner. So then as I come down, I'm going to be going back and forth. I kind of slope them down. See how I do that? And don't go too wide at first. Kind of keep it thin at first. You can always add to it. You can't take it away. So keep it thin. As I'm doing this, I'm just kind of dabbing it on. I'm going to bring it all the way down.
I'm busy answering creative canvas stuff.
Ah! See, she's working, peeps.
Well, you went live and now everybody's asking questions, and these questions need to be answered.
Right, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to make your job harder, sis.
That's okay.
And she's got a really uncomfortable stool that she's
It's
sitting
awful.
at.
The seat is awful.
I feel really bad. So we're going to have to figure out a way to pad that thing.
Right.
Okay, so then
Might not be so bad, but I work today, so it feels like I've been up forever.
So again, at the tops here, I'm starting just using the corner of my brush. This one might be a little bit skinnier. It's okay if these two kind of mend together a little bit too. The more uneven they are, the more realistic they're going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
sure. Oops, sorry guys. That you kind of got these center areas here filled in so you don't
The
so
tree
much.
trunks are.
Yeah, so that you don't see those tree trunks so much. You kind of just want it to all blend a little bit. Sorry.
It's okay.
You could probably zoom out a little bit now.
Yeah. They can figure it out.
Okay, now I'm going to come back down to this little guy here. Just make sure and do the same thing here. And those look pretty dang good. So now I'm just going to add, as a kind of a final, I'm going to add a little bit more black to my elk where I feel like it needs to be. So I'm going to move over here to my elk. There's just a couple spots where I can see a little bit of canvas poking through here. We're almost done, you guys. And if you guys haven't gotten all of your supplies yet, or you need canvases, or you need paintbrushes, you know, we've got stuff. So let us know what you need and we can get you whatever you need before, if you're missing anything, before either our live or just so that you can do some of these videos. Oh, is there a little one in there? Shmar's telling me that I might be missing. I might be missing a little tree in the corner. I'm not really going off of my sample that's on the page here. Let's just find it real quick.
I couldn't find it.
Let's see, it's all the way down here at the bottom. Sorry guys, hang in
When I
there.
hold my finger up to the original, yeah.
It's in here, it's just all at the way bottom. And it's not on this
Oh.
one.
Okay.
I left it off of that one. See? This is what we're looking at. Okay. You see that? Okay. But you know what? You guys can be creative and add as many trees as you want. If you want to add more trees, add more trees. For the most part. Now, I got a little goof up over here. So, if that happens to you guys, it's not the end of the world. What I'm going to do real quick is fix that, though. I think he's pretty well layered. I can't wait to get rid of the chalk, but I have to be patient. Make sure my trees are good and covered. There's even some spots where you can see a little bit of canvas coming through, but that's okay. It kind of gives it a little bit more depth. I like it. So I'm going to rinse my brush real good here, and what I'm going to do is come back in and create this color right here, as close to that color as I possibly can to kind of try and fix that.
Oh, what? Oh, boo-boo.
What happened?
You.
Did I just? Oh, you're talking about my
Yeah,
boo-boo.
'cause I don't think they would have saw it.
You probably wouldn't have noticed. Well, no, because when I did it, I was very vocal about the fact that I just
Well,
screwed
yeah,
up.
but I, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna grab some white. Mix just a touch of black in there, a touch of blue. Got a little bit too much black in my brush, overpowering what I'm trying to do here. Blue. Test it. See if we're anywhere near it. Oh, we're pretty dang close. Add a little bit more blue to it. white. Just a matter of finding the right color, and then you can make the boo-boo go away. I am happy. Happy. It's finished. Aside from my chalk, which I can't do anything about yet. As you can see, I got chalk there too. But it is all done, guys. That is it. Aside from signing your name, which I'm going to go ahead and do with my little baby brush here. Let's see, what color should I sign in? I'm going to do pink. I'm going to create my pink. You guys can sign it in whatever color you want, but I'm going to sign it in this. It's going to be real bright down here in the corner, because why not? Okay. There it is, and I got more chalk over there. Couple areas I'm going to get rid of that chalk, because that's dry. That's dry. Okay, if I don't stop, I'm going to mess something up. So I'm just going to leave it. Trust me. Hopefully you guys can see that. Our finished elk sunset painting. I'm pretty happy with it.
Looks great.
Hopefully you guys are too. So please post some pictures. We want to see your guys' paintings. So when you get them done, go over to Creative Canvas Facebook page, post them up there so we can see them. Yeah, very excited. We're going to keep pumping these videos out. Hopefully we'll be going live by the beginning of next week. If not this weekend, but we'll see. But until then, thank you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that when we do go live, if you don't see us on Facebook, you'll get a YouTube, whatever you call it, a YouTube ping. I don't know. See, I don't know. Whatever.
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah. But thank you guys. Hopefully you have the rest of your night that's good.
Or day.
Or day or morning or whatever. Here we go again. All right. Good night, guys.
Bye, guys.